everybody, to Live with Dr. Carolyn Dean. Carolyn is amazing. She's a doctor, she's a naturopath, she's an herbalist, she's an acupuncturist. She's going to tell you exactly what she would do if she were in your shoes. I can't think of a person who has devoted more time to helping people's health than Dr. Carolyn Dean. She can make a huge difference as you listen to her words of wisdom. We know she's ahead of time because she is the doctor of the future. Welcome, Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Hi, Jenny.
There she is. I love your top.
I know. I wanted to wear one of my farm shirts,
Okay.
but the real farm shirt is flannel. It was so hot. So I have a farm. No, it's not even a farm animal shirt. It's an animal shirt.
It's beautiful. It's a tropical animal shirt, right? It's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. Dr. Carolyn Dean live again tonight, podcasting her greatness and her great information and wisdom out into the world. Woohoo! So glad you're here. You can become a member of Dr. Dean's website, and you want to do that because the hits keep coming. So much information. Now we have a whole Dr. Dean learning management system you can use to continue to keep yourself sharp, learn things you never knew, and learn them straight from Dr. Dean, and set your health goals, get the support you need, all right there. So again, hit that QR code. Make sure you're a member if you're not a member. And if you are a member, share the site with somebody else because you already know what's in there and it's all goodness. And of course, if you're encountering Dr. Dean for the very first time, you're going to learn from her tonight. Our topic, women's hormones, but you're going to learn so much more. And we're going to be with you for a full hour. Again, not medical advice. We don't do that. That's a big no-no. But we are here to expose you to new ideas, new information you may have never yet considered about how to manage your own health and your health future and the future of your family's health. So welcome, Dr. Carolyn Dean.
Thank you, Jenny. I want to keep calling you Dr. Jenny, but then
Whatever you do, don't call me that.
I know. Reverend Jenny. Okay, Reverend Jenny. There we go. Are we preaching to the choir, Jenny? Are the people who are listening to us already so enlightened and shiny because of our formulas? Are we preaching to the choir?
Well, I can say with 100% absolute confidence that there is not a show that goes by that I don't learn something new. And I've been listening to you for almost 15 years. And you always blow me away with something that I've never considered or never known. So I'd say we might be preaching to the choir, but we're singing a new song every single week because something new and fascinating always comes up.
Well done. Well, that wasn't my mini rant. Here's my mini rant. Are we ready?
Ready.
So I listened to a podcast called The Number One Nutrient Deficiency Causing Brain Fog and Dementia. Now, I never really found out what it was, but this was our new friend, Mark Hyman. I knew him in New York when I was doing the AIDS research, but he's our new friend because he's I don't know if he's a co-founder, but he's certainly a huge part of SUPCO, SUPP.co. And Jenny will tell you more about that later if you don't know about the SUPCO trust score that we rank way up in the stratospheres with our company and our formulas. So Mark was interviewing a neurologist, and they said there's no medical treatment for Alzheimer's. And then they started talking about the dozens and dozens of causes of dementia and Alzheimer's. They went through diet and pollution and toxins and infections and mold and leaky gut and stress and nutrient deficiencies. All these insults were triggering the brain to downsize, degrade, and damage neurons, they said. Then the neurologist said, this damage causes a lack of plasticity, which is the ability to mold the brain and allow new experiences. Now, there was a big study about brain plasticity that I talk about in my, I guess it was 2017 Magnesium Miracle, and that was Burton and Bella Altura, two amazing bench researchers. They were doing the research in the lab. They've published over 1,000 papers over the years. So their conclusion was that magnesium is a big, huge factor in enhancing neuroplasticity. So I said, bingo, they're going to talk about magnesium. They didn't. Then the neurologist said, there's a central switch called ATP that integrates all the brain signals. Now, I put ATP in caps because it is, but you know about ATP if you've ever listened to even one of my podcasts, that ATP is really ATP-mg. You cannot have ATP energy without magnesium. So I thought, oh, they're going to talk about magnesium. They didn't. So he's putting all the current information together, he said, about Alzheimer's. It's not misfolded protein. It's not reactive oxygen species or amyloid protein layering. But at the heart, he said, is an insufficiency of signaling by ATP, which mediates plasticity. And what do I always say about the brain? Each neuron has 2 million mitochondria, and the end product is ATP-mg. The biologically active form of ATP is ATP-mg. They also said we have to reduce inflammation. Magnesium reduces inflammation. They said it's the inflammation that makes the amyloid that makes people think, oh, amyloid's the problem. So the misfolded amyloid protein and the reactive oxygen species, it's all damage that is caused by inflammation and causes inflammation. It's a vicious cycle that damages the mitochondria that reduces ATP. And this is a vicious cycle that magnesium can fight. And the neurons are set up for this fight because they will accept 2 million mitochondria. And it's in the mitochondria that you make the ATP energy molecules, ATP-mg. So I guess the recommendation I make is to use our stabilized ion of magnesium in high enough doses that you are filling up your brain neurons, and you won't get the laxative effect if you drink this liquid in your drinking water throughout the day. And also, I'm big on vitamin C to help reduce inflammation and the reactive oxygen species. Of course, I'd want you to take our omega-3 algae and vitamin D to make healthy cell membranes. But just as I was finishing this little input about dementia, I saw an article in the Washington Post, and they talked about the 6 daily habits to slow aging from a Harvard brain expert. And what they're talking about is diet, sleep, managing stress, exercise, social interaction, and learning new things. All well and good, but not enough. You have to add our Remag, our Whole C Reset, and our Vitamin C Reset berry powder, and keep your eyes open for all the articles in every medical field that they're all going to this, I don't know, defensive posture that, well, it's all about diet, sleep, stress, exercise, social interaction. They have given up on nutrients, and they're giving out the most basic advice to people, without the very important information about taking nutrients for cellular building blocks. If you give the cells the nutrients, they will take over and do the rest. And then, I know that's a generalization, but that's kind of our basic philosophy. So over to you, Ginny. What do you have to say?
I love our basic philosophy. I will say that because it works for so many people. And it's so perfect that you talked about REMAG, which is our stabilized form of picometer minerals. Kathy asked this question, and this is a question we get all the time. We get it in customer service, and I'm so glad she asked it. She said, when I take magnesium glycinate, it gives me a hangover the next day. It makes me groggy and I'm tired. Why is this? And what do you recommend for a magnesium for sleep?
Well, the grogginess, it could be that the magnesium is doing its work and it's really busy trying to create the important enzyme reactions, because 80% of known metabolic functions require magnesium, and 800 enzyme reactions. So, I mean, my flip comment would be, it's so busy doing all these things, it needs you to slow down and rest and give it a chance to work. But what we say is to take our liquid. It's not that magnesium glycinate is bad. Any form of magnesium is going to be beneficial. I will never put down other magnesiums for not having some positive effect. But what we're trying to do is give you a magnesium that will saturate your cells, do 800 enzyme functions, do 80% of known metabolic functions, so that you'll end up having, nothing to worry about anymore. But what we say is put your magnesium and your other minerals that we have in your drinking water with sea salt. Sip it through the day, maybe an extra bit at night for sleep. But magnesium is not just for insomnia. Magnesium is for everything.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Dean, who's an advocate for magnesium and the Magnesium Miracle, wrote the book, taught everybody about magnesium, is always going to advocate for any magnesium, but I will only advocate for REMAG. And you know why? Because magnesium glycinate, a lot of times what may make you groggy is the glycine. It's not the magnesium. And one of the things that you'll have with our formula is elemental magnesium in its purest form. You won't have any fillers and you won't have anything else that causes digestive distress. And it's going to go right into your cells and it's going to do your wonderful work. So definitely give REMAG a shot. That is the only magnesium that Dr. Dean will recommend as an alternative to any other form of magnesium, which might be slightly beneficial. Certainly not nearly as beneficial as REMAG.
Very good. Well done. Well done.
That's from running customer service all those years ago, although everybody else runs it now and does a great job, like Sarah Ellis. But
running customer service and marketing and customer relations and international sales and so it's fabulous. Oh,
okay, let's see if I have any other questions before we press on. Okay. We'll get to that question as we go a little further down the line, because I know we've got a topic that relates. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Okay, in the library, we are going to be, we're back to the library, Rachel, and we're going to be talking about hormone harmony. That is our blog of the week, and it's Hormone Harmony, Natural Solutions for Midlife Shifts. And here's something, they kind of call this perimenopause, women in their 40s starting to get sluggish in their hormones. Perimenopause was a construct. There's no such thing in the medical literature as perimenopause. A herbalist friend of mine, Susan Weed, yes, Weed, she told me that she was at a conference once. I mean, this is back in the 70s. And she said some OBGYN doctor got up and started talking about people meaning women having early menopause, and he called it perimenopause. She said that's where she first heard the name. So that's interesting how these things, get made up and then, become a way, we could say, of kind of controlling the female health from, from birth. You're going in and getting your checkups and you're getting your shots, and then young girls, they'll have problems with their periods, and they will be put on the pill before they even develop a normal cycle, and then they have trouble getting pregnant when they come off the pill. And then here we have a couple of children, and the stress, the adrenal stress, the thyroid stress is so heavy that the sex hormones start weakening, and then you get your perimenopause, and then you're into full-blown menopause. The whole way along, it's like a doctor's dream to have a lifelong patient that's always going to come in with problems. But anyway, that's a little mini rant about hormones. And in the blog, I'm talking about so many women. Is it that they're trying to multitask, trying to have a family, trying to have a career, but they're getting burnt out, and their hormones are failing. And the perimenopause hacks I list are adaptogens like ashwagandha and maca, hormone balancing teas. There's even something on TikTok about seed cycling, flax seeds one week, pumpkin seeds the next. Presumably to get the minerals and the fatty acids to help with hormonal balance. There's progesterone creams, cortisol reset diets, intermittent fasting, and breathing hacks. But they don't do anything but maybe manage symptoms, or they'll kick in the placebo effect, because if you're doing something for a problem, the body will support you and say, oh, she really wants to get rid of the symptom, and something will kick in that makes you feel like you're getting better, which is a placebo, which is fine. I've had patients come into my office and say, can you just give me a placebo? So decades of stress and sugar and caffeine and medications and alcohol and environmental toxins, what they're doing is they're depleting minerals. And without these minerals, you'll start to get imbalance in your hormones. I mean, the biggest endocrine organ for minerals is the thyroid, and the thyroid needs 9 minerals. And if we're deficient in magnesium, as I know up to 80% of people don't take enough magnesium, don't get it in the diet, all the other minerals are deficient as well. So these minerals, they're needed for hormone production and regulation and balance. They support the thyroid, adrenals, and sex hormones, and our estrogen and progesterone hormones in particular. Stress accelerates mineral loss. Elevated cortisol from stress depletes magnesium. You urinate it out. So the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, the hot flashes, mood swings, fatigue, insomnia, anxiety, irritability, weight gain, they mirror the symptoms of magnesium deficiency. Seriously, we have so many people calling into customer service, and they're saying, oh my gosh, here I am just taking your Remag, and look what happened. So I'm not saying you may not need hormone replacement. I do myself a little bit of estriol, the 3 E1, E2, E3 estrogens, and progesterone as a vaginal cream, which It helped my horrible hot flashes that I developed in New York when I was under massive stress doing AIDS study, and the lead researcher died, and I had to take over. So stress will crash your adrenals, lower your thyroid, and then your sex hormones can collapse. So anyway, there's thyroid, adrenal, sex hormones. I used to call it the tripod, but actually you have to look at the pancreas too, producing insulin, because if you're eating a lot of sugar, you can get problems with insulin resistance and all the problems with high sugar. So the basic message, obviously, I'm saying our magnesium remag, our multiple mineral, it has the 9 minerals necessary to make thyroid hormones. What are they? See if I can remember. Magnesium, of course, but iodine, selenium, chromium, zinc, boron, copper, manganese, magnesium, molybdenum. Boom. And if you're deficient in any one of them, it could bring down everything else. Because if you're going along and you come to a step that needs a certain mineral and you don't have it, then things just back up. It's quite fascinating. But I've tried to distill it down to take your minerals, throw in some omega-3 and some vitamin C as well, and make yourself happy, and vitamin D. So there we have it. And we'll see what Ginny thinks of that.
Well, I have to say, I have a little testimonial. I saved it for you, and I know you'll be particularly pleased with this one, because I knew this was going to be our topic. And just so everybody knows, all the people for all the years who've always said that they try to talk to their friends and their husband and their daughter and tell them about the minerals, and they don't respond very well, and they put them off and blah, blah, blah. My very best friend of 1,000 million trillion years started taking Remite just 2 weeks ago. Oh, she thought it was enough to take Remag. Oh, she thought it was enough to take Realign. Oh, she keeps Pico Zinc Plus on hand in case she gets sick. But she called me and she was practically crying. She's like, "Oh my God, Remite is so amazing, and you can't even believe how good I feel." And all of her hormone symptoms, her puffiness, her crankiness, her circles under
Yeah.
all gone.
I know this woman.
Yeah, all
And
gone.
yeah, and she's saying to Ginny, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" Well, no, why didn't you tell me harder?
That's right. That's why didn't you open up my mouth and throw it down my throat hole? But Remite is not to be trifled with, ladies. You've got to have it. Got to have it. Make sure you've got it and you're using it. I think it's one of the most fantastic formulas we've got. And it does so much for the endocrine system, not just your thyroid, but also your adrenals. And again, add that vitamin C with it. And it's a nootropic, which means it's highly beneficial for the brain. It's got boron in it for your bones. You just don't want to be without Remite, for sure.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, where are we at? Questions and comments. We've got so many testimonials on our products, but there's a question first. Now, this is a woman from the UK, and she say, "Well done for everything you do. I often say to folks that good health is our greatest wealth." True. You see all these wealthy people and they just fall over because they haven't figured out how to take care of their health. And she also said, "And laughter is the best medicine. LOL." It's true. So she said, "I'm listening to your podcast at the moment regarding diet and totally agree with the conversation regarding shared the information regarding flotation therapy." Now, flotation therapy, and she describes it, 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts, and that's magnesium sulfate, are dissolved in a foot of heated water, just heated to body temperature. You float for an hour in the dark, and magnesium is absorbed through your skin. And it's really powerful and successful. Now, I kind of had to do that before I got Remag on board. I found a chemist who would create this stabilized ion, non-laxative stabilized ion of magnesium. I was doing Epsom salt baths all the time. I even did find a float tank in San Francisco when we were there once. So it does work. You do absorb magnesium through your skin. She said the therapy originated in the U.S. but Epsom salts come from the U.K. from springs in Epsom, Surrey, where in the UK where she lives now. I think she just lives in the UK, not in Surrey. And she says, keep up the good work, best wishes. And her name is Penny. She's a retired school teacher. She says she's a survivor from shocking mercury poisoning from toxic dentistry and now thriving as a health researcher. She says, I was born in 1944, third generation mercury toxic, and I've learned a huge amount in my lifetime. So that's sweet. People can do Epsom salts baths. And I know what our retired customer service person, Julie, who's here doing the Maui pilot study with me, she's always recommending Remag topically. If you have a headache, just put some topically. You wake up in the middle of the night, you put some over your heart. If you're hearing your heart, it is amazing to do magnesium topically. So I'll dive right into the testimonials. There's a lot of them, Ginny. I'll stop after a few and ask you if we should go on, but here we go. A review on PicoPats. Yes, you can go to all our websites, our PicoPats, our RNA Reset, and leave your product reviews, and it's a wonderful way of spreading the information. So Kylie says, I love picoselenite. It's an easy way to make sure my pets are getting antioxidants. Great benefits. And yeah, nasty things do happen to pets. So picoselenite, a selenium stabilized ion, is very important for certain breeds of animals. We talk about it more on the PicoPat website. A review also on PicoPats for Pico Silver from Brooke. Pico Silver is seriously a game changer for my dog and 2 cats, ! We have been using Pico Silver for about 5 months, and I've noticed one cat is more mobile. She was starting to struggle to move and jump, and this seemed to have really helped her. For my dog, he was having some allergy problems and would have hot spots on his skin. Those have improved a lot since starting Pico Silver. He hasn't had hot spots in months. Remag from Ruby. She says, I've been taking Remag since about May 2025. I have supraventricular tachycardia and was having an episode every other month. I would have to go to the ER for emergency treatment. It was out of control. I had my last episode July 2025. And this is January 2026. So I believe it is working. Also, it seems like all of the inflammation is going out of my body. And I've lost 40 pounds. Also, my hands have gotten smaller. I had to buy a smaller ring size. So seriously, that is so cool. A review on RNA Reset for Remag Lotion Plus from Sarah, who says Remag is amazing. The Remag liquid helps quench my thirst, makes my water taste so good. It feels amazing to swallow. The balm, Remag Balm, which I've been using every morning for about 3 months, literally helped vanish the early signs of of varicose veins on my legs. I like the thickness and find that it absorbs nicely into my skin, but I do wash it off before bed. I use the Remag lotion on my face and it works wonders. In less than 24 hours, it cleared up a blemish that started popping up due to eating dairy. I told my 16-year-old son that happened, so he started using it too, and it cleared his face up of any acne. And she gives a whoop whoop. So that's 4. What do you think, Ginny? Will I keep going?
Well, I love the ones that you've been sharing. And I think, let's just encourage people, go to the website and read the reviews, especially on the products that you haven't maybe tried. Like, for example, we got a fantastic review on Pico Zinc Plus the other day, and that's not always one that people rush out to review, but really honestly, check those reviews, know that our customers are highly satisfied, and make shopping on our website a priority. That's all we can ask.
Mm. Okay, so what's next? So I'll just skip those reviews, maybe do them next week.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Yeah.
The pros and cons of supplements, drugs, and research. So let's go to that. Okay, this is from a vegan influencer who I signed up for their, I guess, whatever posts, just so I could see what they're talking about. And there's this one was saying, saturated fat is having a moment. Keto and carnivore diet advocates claim that fats being unfairly demonized. Social media influencers are telling you to eat more butter. Prominent political leaders are saying it's time to end the war on saturated fats. And that's probably the Maha group he's talking about, and the new food pyramid accepting high protein at the top of the chart. And they don't demonize saturated fat, but our vegan says, now the American Heart Association, the World Health Organization, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the American Diabetes Association, the American Cancer Society, and the American Medical Association are all saying that limiting saturated fat reduces your risk of heart disease and diabetes. Could they all be wrong? And what do I say? Yes, they are all wrong. They all speak from the half-truth of their bias. A happy balance is what you want, along with our formulas that help your body keep that happy balance. So the vegan is quoting all the people he probably attacks all the time for their pro-drug stance. He's going to support them in their bashing of saturated fat. So it's all a game. It is all a big game. And I don't know, do you want to chime in on that that comment, Ginny?
Well, it's going to be a big shift if people are open to receiving the new information. And you've told many times about your own foster daughter who lost her teeth because of veganism. Savvy was a vegetarian, but she's graduated incorporated meats again because it's important for the amino acid structure of the body. And those amino acids create the peptides that people are trying to pay for, and they don't need to pay for them. And it creates the collagen that people are throwing down their throat hole, and they don't need to do that either. Mm-hmm. So it is going to be a big shift for people if they can embrace the fact that animal protein is essential for human health, and saturated fats are important for cholesterol, and the brain's all cholesterol, right? I mean, so I agree with you completely. It's going to be a big shift for them. We'll see if they can make it.
Yeah, we'll see. Very good. So I do have a mini helpful hack, and I talked about this a couple weeks ago, and it's important, during cold and flu season. Here's the nebulizer I mentioned, but I didn't have it in hand. And here's our Pico Silver. And there's a little up in the well there. You just put fill up the well with straight pico silver because it's self-preserved. It doesn't need any preservative. And you just the button in front, you press it on and it turns it on after a few seconds. It's coming. Isn't this funny? This is exactly what happens to people when they're trying to demonstrate something. So there it is. I don't know if you can see the whatever vapor coming off, and it starts out and gives you 5 minutes, and you just hold it up against your mouth and breathe, and it doesn't have any bitterness or irritation, and it's something you can take on the plane with you. I think Ginny and Greg do that. So this is something that's very important, for the sinuses, for all this area. I found when I was studying yeast overgrowth, that it was people who had a lot of sinus infections and therefore a lot of high potency antibiotics to try to get the antibiotics into this, clumped up fluid mucus in their sinuses, because the blood vessels are what brings antibiotics to an area, and the blood vessels were cut off from this mucus. So one of the very best things is to do a nebulizer. I mean, kids are given vaporizers by their bed for asthma and whatnot. The nebulizer can be helpful for that as well. So that's the hack. That is the hack. And now we're actually able to go to our articles, but we're past halfway. Let's ask Ginny if there are any questions.
David asked a question earlier, and I just wanted to make sure we got to it. And that was, what can he do to protect his digestive health while he's taking an antibiotic? He has to take it. It's been prescribed. But what can he do to support his gut?
Well, at a separate time, hours away, you can be taking a probiotic, and it could be our Flora Revive, which has Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a gentle antifungal, because when you take antibiotics, you're going to be growing yeast. And it also has humic fulvic, which are soil-based probiotics and prebiotics and minerals and all the rest of it, and inulin, which is a prebiotic, and our very special dehydrated RNA drops, which are a life force enhancer. So there's that, and eating sauerkraut, which has its own probiotics, eating kimchi or yogurts that say they have live bacteria. I got recently, and I think I talked about it last week, a new coconut milk yogurt called Coco June, COCOJUNE. And I tried to make my own yogurt with it. I killed the culture. I put it in the stove and just pressed in 115 degrees and just keep it at that correct temperature, and all of a sudden my stove jumped up to 170. Ooh. But even so, it did some fermentation, and it made a very nice chicken stew.
That does sound delicious. I know how you cook. I bet it was good. So that, David, should be your helpful hicks from Dr. Dean. And if you need any more, you can also check in with customer service. Quick question, Carolyn. Would you double up on Flora Revive if you're taking an antibiotic?
Well, if Dave's never taken it, then he'd start with 2. But also, I forgot to mention, we also add Pico Silver as a natural antifungal, because you're going to get yeast overgrowth. And some people say, oh, well, don't take the probiotics until after the antibiotic. But I don't agree with that, because the body's dynamic. It will pull in any probiotics you're taking. It'll put them it'll protect them from, it will protect them from the antibiotics if it wants to. We have no idea what's going on down there. So since the probiotics are like foods, it's like you're not going to stop eating food while you're taking an antibiotic. And taking probiotics are not going to interfere with what the antibiotic is trying to kill. It's just that antibiotics kill everything in sight. And so you want to have fight back a little bit.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, we're at the article stage. The first one that Rachel will put up is single pill approach proves beneficial in hypertension. So this is a Medscape article, and this is single pill. It's been called a poly pill. They put several pills, 2 or more different medications in one pill. And so they're saying a single pill consisting of 2 or more medications may, now you always have to look at the wording, may. It's not saying will help hypertension. It may help hypertension patients lower their blood pressure, reduce risk for heart attack and stroke, and improve long-term adherence, according to a new American Heart Association scientific statement. And improve long-term adherence. Okay, that's what they're about. They want earlier, more stable, sustained control. Together, these factors can translate into decreased cardiovascular morbidity, mortality. So they're just repeating themselves. It turns out there's no health improvement over taking the usual handful of pills. When they've done a study of polypill and the other, the outcome is no different. So what are they doing? They're marketing to improve compliance, which means more pills being taken and more money made. I think this has come about because they have a new customer base with the new blood pressure guidelines that made nearly half of US adults into blood pressure patients. They made 130 over 80 or higher the new standard for diagnosing hypertension. So they created the disease and they're offering the cure. But I guess they found out that, well, people aren't too keen on taking the 2 and 3 blood pressure pills. So they've got this poly pill. And they say it's convenient, less expensive. And I've told the story many times about sitting in with a heart doctor in New York with a patient an overweight journalist. He was taking 5 blood pressure medications that weren't working. And probably because I was there, he told them to start taking magnesium. And after the patient left, I asked why he didn't use magnesium first. And he said that he often would add it if the others weren't working, and it usually helped. And he wouldn't answer my question why he didn't start with magnesium. And about this article, I wondered if there was a conflict of interest, because a lot of these articles, they do give the conflicts. One of the doctors writing this article gets payments from, I don't know, some of these names: Recor, Medtronic, Eli Lilly, Novartis, Novo Nordisk, and Ripple Medical. His institution has received research funding from AstraZeneca, Arrowhead, CRISPR Therapeutics, Cardigan, Mineralis, and Retention, and royalties from Belliver Media Group and Elsevier. So, conflict of interest. The polypill idea has been around for a number of years. Big Pharma wants to make it easier to give to people as a so-called preventive treatment. So what do I recommend? Get your picometer minerals, your magnesium and your potassium for sure, your D3K2, and omega-3 algae for strong cell membranes. And I found an article when I was working on that little bit on Healthline, supposedly a health website titled 11 Supplements to Take for High Blood Pressure. They did not even mention magnesium. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Any article about health that leaves out magnesium doesn't know what they are talking about. So that's that one. And let's go to the next one. Heart risks rise, care lags. New stats expose harsh truths. The report found that major risk factors were widespread or worsening in recent years. The report focused on 5 key risk factors. Hypertension, now we've already talked about that. People are being, overdiagnosed for hypertension. There's diabetes, there's obesity, high levels of low density lipoprotein, cholesterol, which has now been kind of negated as a cause of heart disease, and cigarette smoking. And the 5 major cardiovascular conditions: coronary heart disease, acute MI, myocardial infarction, heart failure, peripheral artery disease, and stroke. And they say, like I mentioned before, hypertension was present in about 1 in 2 US adults. Diabetes became more common, and diabetes-related deaths rose. Obesity affects 40% of adults. Most high-risk adults failed to meet LDL cholesterol targets, and statins remained underused. Cigarette smoking rates did decline from 20% to 14% between 2009 and 2023. Coronary heart disease affects more than 20 million adults, with increased rates after 2019 and increased rates among younger adults. And stroke accounts for 1 in 20 deaths. So all, bad stuff. But the authors of the paper then gave a completely awkward ending. So it's kind of nonsensical. They said, if we want a healthier future, we must understand how far we have come, how far we have yet to go, and what stands in our way, by putting data at the center of our collective awareness. We aim to help cardiovascular community, including clinicians, researchers, policymakers, and the public. You see how the patients are always the last. We want to make them see the landscape clearly and chart a more effective path forward. So proverbial word salad, saying that data is at the center. If they can build up the fear statistics, then maybe the patients will take their drugs. But they're not looking for alternatives, because what they're doing now is not working. They should be looking at alternatives, but alternatives don't make the big bucks. So we've got a population that's pulling back from not only vaccines, as we're hearing, but drug-based medicine when you hear these statistics, and they're just going to go for the fear-based data. So let me go to Ginny and get her comments on these studies and see if there are questions.
The thing that's interesting to me is that the FDA has actually approved magnesium as a treatment for high blood pressure. It is what's called an authorized claim. So it seems that these folks should be adding that to their repertoire, just strictly as FDA enforcement. If they're looking for compliance, offering 11 different supplements or whatever for hypertension and not even mentioning magnesium is ridiculous, because none of the other ones are authorized. So, when you look at all the different components, like you say, Carolyn, what's really going on, who's behind it, what's being said, and what's really compliant and actually authorized as far as medical claims are concerned, a lot of these articles are not accurate. They're just not accurate.
No, there's a lot of clickbait. There's a lot of people just, putting out the words. But
yeah,
as I said, if they don't talk about magnesium, they're not accurate, they're not honest, and they're not well read to understand. Like Ginny said, it's on the FDA approved list for hypertension, and that information doesn't even get across because all the media is so drug biased.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on board?
Susanna said going to the doctor increases your blood pressure. I think that's probably true too.
Yeah, very well said, Susanna. Okay, the next article. Stop FDA censorship of nutrient benefits. Now, this is our wonderful Alliance of Natural Health. They're the really best health freedom group. I met them. I met the founder back in 2005 when I was on the scene for a couple of years until I realized it was being infiltrated. So they're saying that the FDA has rejected the Alliance for Natural Health petition to allow truthful science-based nutrient disease claims. This is what Ginny and I were just talking about. We can make a claim for magnesium for hypertension, but I mean, it's not even talked about. But there is such a block on any sort of health claims. So again, the FDA has rejected the Alliance's petition to allow truthful science-based nutrient disease claims, despite those claims being drawn from government sources. So this is what the FDA comes after dietary supplement companies about. If we say, or even if a satisfied customer says we cured their disease with our formulas, we're making a disease claim, which is verboten. As a result, the Alliance is preparing to sue the FDA, arguing that the decision violates the First Amendment. Actually, that reminded me that when the FDA and my lawyer were on the phone a couple of years ago, and they were saying, well, you got to take all your testimonials off your website and stop talking about how magnesium can help people. I said, whatever happened to the First Amendment? I mean, seriously. So violates the First Amendment, and it violates the FDA Modernization Act, which was something that was enacted in 1997, updated in 2022, aiming to improve the regulation of food, drugs, and medical devices. So what this act is trying to do is censor non-misleading health information. So it's trying to censor truthful health information and denying customers access to nutrition science. So by censoring truthful health information, customers, the general public, they're not getting the information that they could use to make themselves healthier. The ruling represents a missed opportunity under the Make America Healthy Again agenda, reinforcing a drug-centric healthcare system while keeping low-cost preventive nutrition information out of consumers' reach. And the ANH, the Alliance, says we need as many people as possible to speak out and demand the FDA and Health and Human Services follow the law, respect the Constitution, stop censoring science that could improve and even save lives. So this is where you go to the website of the Alliance. It's right here, Alliance for Natural Health. And I think they have a petition going. They're going to sue, but they have a petition going and this lawsuit. So they should be supported. And the next study article is blood biomarker profiles and exceptional longevity, a comparison of centenarians and non-centenarians in a 35-year follow-up. This is what a Swedish study. So they compared biomarkers among exceptionally long-lived individuals and their shorter-lived peers. And they thought this could help improve our understanding of the aging process. They want to find out, well, what are these old guys doing? So the blood-based biomarkers were taken from 1985 to 1996 and followed for 35 years. And they were markers of metabolism, inflammation, liver, kidney, anemia, nutritional status, and in total, 1,224 participants, 84.6% were females, lived to their 100th birthday. And what they expressed was higher levels of cholesterol and iron, lower levels of glucose, creatine, uric acid, and 4 liver enzymes. And those were what they found being associated with reaching 100 years. Now, this business about having higher levels of cholesterol has come out in several ways, and we should be really leery of taking the statin protocols to keep diminishing cholesterol, because that is not serving our brain well or our hormones well. So I don't know what you can get out of this study. That's why we're doing the epigenetic study with our Maui pilot. We're looking for methylation factors and all kinds of really high level investigative blood testing. It's really quite incredible. So I'll be talking about that more. Our 6-month study is coming to an end. So we'll get our analysis together and be telling you how important it is that you continue to take your RNA reset formulas. So, Ginny, let me go to you. I think I've done 2 studies. See what you have to say.
We are almost at the top of the hour. So do you want to go over? We've got 3 minutes left.
Okay, let's keep going. Let's get this done. The next study is The Price of Healing, a growing barrier for aspiring physicians. Now, this is interesting. For prospective physicians today, pursuing medicine pits noble aspirations against an unprecedented and an unspoken price tag. Now, I don't know how noble it is that kids are going into medicine. I don't know. They should do a survey of that. Are you going in for the money, the prestige, or to save the planet? I mean, what is their noble aspiration? Anyway, rapidly rising undergraduate and medical school costs are compounded by uncertainties in the federal student loan landscape, prolonged training pathways. I mean, seriously, I was so lucky because I did my 3 years of, intense medical training, and we were in the hospitals for certain rotations from year 2 on. But year 4 was clerkship. We were in the hospitals, and the clerkship I did, it was interesting because I transferred from Dalhousie University up to Hamilton University, where I was in my 4th year, did my clerkship. It was a tutorial school, I guess you call it. They had just recently, I guess, when I started my first year medicine, they started a tutorial system where all the students, instead of a big amphitheater of 100 students, they had small group sessions. They didn't have exams. I don't know how they survived without having exams. So by 4th year, we were supposed to be in the hospitals on rotation. And what I found, because I'd had my 3 years of just jamming every bit of information into my head, I was ready to get out and practice. And they were so scared of the national boards that would happen at the end of their 4th year that seriously, most of them were skipping the hospital rotations. I don't know how they managed that, but I was as the only student around. They knew I was a clerk, but what would happen in medicine is when you see a procedure, you're supposed to, learn it. The next time there's a procedure needs to be done, you have to do it. And the third time that procedure comes up, you have to teach the next guy. So very quickly, I was operating like a resident. I was the only one there, so I got to do everything, it's just the best thing for a student. So when I went into my internship in Mount Sinai in Toronto, I was doing everything. And I was just going to, after my internship, I was going to go into practice. And they were starting to get students to do 2 and 3 year family medicine rotations. And what happened with most of the 100 students in my internship at Mount Sinai is they all went for the 2 and 3 year family practice rotation. I got out and never looked back. So I only had 3 years of sitting down studying, and the 2 years in the hospitals, clerkship and internship. But what they're doing now, because kids don't know, they don't feel connected enough to what they've learned to put it into practice. So they go into specialties, which are 4 and 5 years of residency, or like I said, 2 and 3 years of general practice. So the whole thing has become very, very monetized, because what am I saying here? the cost of being being a student for so long. But then in terms of this article, they're leaving out the fact that the public has become increasingly distrustful of allopathic medicine than the use of more and more toxic drugs and interventions. Doctors are mainly learning how to prescribe drugs, and there's really no healing going on. So cumulatively, the price tag of undergrad and medical education can exceed $500,000, comparable to or surpassing the price of a home. This is the article again. So what's my advice? My advice is to take an online naturopathic degree, such as the one at knowyourwellness.org. Go on social media as a naturopathic health coach and recommend our formulas that you can learn about on my Dr. Carolyn Dean website, which is being built out with the types of courses that I've already given to Know Your Wellness, where I'm an adjunct professor. So if the aim of a student is to help people, this is the way to do it. Not spend 8 to 10 years and $500,000 debt to learn how to prescribe drugs. So I think we'll end it there, Ginny.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, Melody Rose has been flashing all of our websites for the last 10 minutes, so I think we're okay there. Everybody knows how to get a hold of us. Carolyn, we do want to remind everybody, be sure to log on to Supco, be sure to get your account, be sure to add our formulas, and be sure to share this information with people that you love and care about. So we can definitely end the show on that high note.
But then there's Artie. We have to do Artie and the Pico Pets.
Okay. Well, Melody Rose was putting them up. Let me say real quick, picopets.com is Artie. That is Sheila Kern's dog, Artie, and he's on the cover of Pico Pets. Our regular product website is rnareset.com. And of course, Dr. Carolyn Dean's website, which we've talked about this evening, is the place you want to go. Become a member. use the resources, share the information, and make the world a healthier, happier place. I mean, that's just what we're about.
Mhm. Happy, healthy, holy, wealthy, and wise.
There you go. Very
Mahalo and aloha.
Mahalo, everybody. Have a very good evening, week, month, year.
You have been listening to
Thanks,
Dr.
Jenny.
Carolyn Dean,
You bet.
the doctor of the future. Become a member of drcarolyndean.com and get access to all her leading edge of creation information, as well as archives, webinars, and other valuable media resources. Join Dr. Dean and Ginny Almighty same time again next week.